Hey Zouk family, welcome back. Last week it was fantastic. We met Ron Nicoli, who is fronting up the marketing for Zouk Vegas, which is the brand new project that Zouk is taking on. But let's take a step back to where it all began. Zouk is obviously 29 years old, and there's no one better in our whole company to discuss what Zouk actually stands for than Wayne, the GM of Zouk Singapore. Wayne's nearly a decade with the brand. And Wayne, over to you. Give us a background. Who is Wayne and what is Zouk?
Hi, so basically I'm the general manager of Zouk Singapore. I started out as the head of entertainment about 9 years ago in 2011. So back then, I think the founder of Zouk, Lincoln, kind of like got me on board. And yeah, I was in publishing. I was editing a magazine before this called Juice. Worked quite closely with the Zouk team and Lincoln, and I guess everything is kind of like connected. They were looking for someone to do the music director role. So that's when I came on board and took up the challenge. Yeah, and what is Zouk? Wow, I mean, even to you, Joe. I mean, what is Zouk? I think you'll feel the same. It's kind of like an institution. I feel. Yeah, even saying that, there's so much depth to it, right? I think you can never imagine anyone telling you that a nightclub in Asia, right, and Singapore for all that matter, that's so strict with all the chewing gum laws and stuff, can have a club, right? A dance music institution that's 29 years old. So inspired by the Balearic Islands, Ibiza in particular. Our founder Lincoln, he used to be like probably the only Asian guy partying there in '85. So he was very inspired. He came back to Singapore. He brought the concept over, found three kind of dilapidated warehouses at the River Valley area, converted that into Zouk. Lost money for, I would say, about 4 years, he told me. All his shareholders left, he stayed strong. And I mean, here we are, man. The rest, he says, is history.
I got to tell you a story, Wayne. When I joined Zouk 3 years ago, I got in a taxi from Changi Airport going to Clarke Quay. And the taxi driver asked me where I was going. I said Zouk, and it was lunchtime. And he said, "Wow, so early." And I laughed. I said, "I'm going to the office." And he told me he met his wife at Zouk 10 years before. You must have seen so many memories over the last 10 years. I mean, Zouk, for those who are checking out from America, those who check out from other places, Zouk isn't a club, it's an institution. How would you best describe what it means to Singaporeans, especially?
Yeah, I for Singaporeans, I think Zouk, it's like, just to put it in perspective, even my mom and dad, of course, despite the fact that I work there, they know Zouk, right? Because Zouk, it's kind of like a Singapore local icon. I mean, even our Prime Minister of Singapore has visited Zouk. Interestingly, I think it was in the early 2000s for a People's Action Party youth kind of event. I remember like Prime Minister Lee actually appeared for a while at the club, Yeah, making a speech at the console. So it means a lot of Singaporeans because even if people don't party in Singapore, they know of Zouk. And I think it helps that we have interesting initiatives like the Mambo Jumbo Nights. For those who don't know, Mambo Jumbo is our very iconic Zouk night for over 20 years. I think Lincoln, our founder, kind of created it because back then, Zouk, actually, when we started, was only playing house music, very deep house, Balearic house music, New York house, Detroit techno. And he was actually thinking of a way to get the masses to come to the club. And he thought, hey, with the team back then, it was a very creative team. They went like, hey, why not we just do a night where we play, basically radio hits, and hits from 10 years ago. Yeah, so this was the 90s, so 10 years ago, the hits were the 80s, Bananarama and stuff. And that's how Mambo was birthed. And interestingly, it grew a life of its own. Mambo Jumbo is now huge. It's still going strong. I think it's really, I'll call it like it's an element of the fabric of Singapore. I know the People's Association in Singapore, where all these like older kind of like demographic of like aunties and uncles, they will actually do their exercises to mambo music, like retro music. So it really means a lot. And of course, to the youngsters in Singapore, it is the place to party, to discover new music, Yeah, so I mean, Zouk caters to almost every part of Singaporeans' life,
I think that's what's really special. I mean, for me, coming in as a new face, the fact that it is a community brand is something that's unbelievably special. I'd not seen it. I mean, you can talk about places like Pasha have a strong connection, but if it comes from the UK Ministry of Sound Fabric, is very much a ravers community. But this is a huge community, and Lincoln was a linchpin of this. And you've got team members who've been there, like let's say Arun, who've been there for 2 decades, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Arun, I think, if I'm not wrong, right, Arun Cape was there at the very beginning. I mean, she worked her way up. Yeah, and in fact, I think if you look at our Zouk staff right now for both the corporate office as well as the nightclub, I think we have at least 10 to 12 employees who have been there since like the beginning, or since 1991 or around that period. And just an interesting fact, the oldest employee is actually Jeremy Boone, our resident DJ. He was enlisted in 1990 because I saw his record, the employee data. And I think that's amazing, right? So Lincoln got him on board. I spoke to Jeremy to prepare the music and to kind of like, get things going before the club opened. So, I mean, Jeremy, man, been there for 30 years.
That's strong. I mean, but there's not just Zouk. You must have been part of many initiatives over the year. And one of the most special ones, which I actually attended before I even joined, was Zouk Out. And Zouk Out was a monster of a festival, and arguably the most famous in Asia for sure, right?
Yes, I think the interesting thing about Zouk Out, it was actually the one of the first actually proper music festivals in Southeast Asia and possibly Asia itself. Of course, we don't take into account Fuji Rock, right? Because it's been around for a bit since the late 90s. But interestingly, Zouk Out, first Zouk Out was 2000. Yeah, I think the name Zouk Out explains everything. The team back then with Lincoln decided to bring Zouk out. So the name Zouk Out came about. It's a beautiful name though. Yeah, and I know the first Zouk Out was 5,000 people on the beach, Sentosa, where it still is. Just one stage. Really old school names came to play. And yeah, I think Richie Horton, when he was doing Plastic Man, he was bald with like the big glasses. Yeah, he did one of the first few editions of Zouk Out. Yeah, and it's grown from strength to strength. Of course, I mean, in the last 5 years, I would say about 5 to 7 years, it's gotten more competitive. Yeah, we have had, with all due respect, a very, very good array of festivals appearing across Southeast Asia, like DWP, 808 in Bangkok. I mean, really amazing festivals. I think the market has grown in such a way that I think, I mean, there's a lot of like different action spots around Asia right now in terms of festival offerings. Yeah, but Zouk Out still manages to hold its ground. We did take a break in 2019. Yeah, just to kind of like, I think after almost 19 years of running the festival, I think like all products, I think it was essential for us to kind of like take a back seat, take a break, reevaluate how we want to do this and bring it back even better in the near future.
So to focus more on you for a while and to put you blushing a bit, you're not just a GM, but you've done this for such a long time. You're like an industry expert. You speak on panels, you get invited to talk about the industry. And one of the areas that interests me the most, and I often quiz you about this because I've only been doing this for a year, is you've been booking artists for a very long time. And you told me these great stories of Carl Cox coming to play at Zouk, but then spending the weekend with you guys in Bali, and the different eating habits of different guys, and taking Dave Clark to Titanic. So you must have built some good friendships over the years. I know that, for instance, you're close to Ben Bath, spent 7 years working together. Which are the relationships that you have fostered through Zouk over the past 2 years, and how do you see that these relationships have fostered their passion?
I mean, Joel, just for starters, I need to kind of like say, like, I pay props to you. I mean, you're doing for 1 year, but you've been pretty good, man. I mean, you're amazing. I think the artists love you, and you're a natural in terms of like, hosting people and stuff. I think very good feedback. So, hey, give yourself more credit, man. A year, to me, it felt like 10 years, good stuff you're doing. I really
I've been asked so many questions. It's felt like 10 years. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm sure the artists themselves go like, "Hey, Joe, have you been working here for 10 years?" Because you're so natural, right? With like the brand as well as dealing with them. No, this is real talk. Yeah. Okay, back to me. I've actually, it's interesting because when it comes to dealing with DJs, contrary to what many people believe, I think I'm quite an introvert. I mean, professionally I do provide, the whole, everything for them, a good green room, a good experience, good time. But naturally, I'm quite shy, and I guess I do go in and say hello to most of the DJs, and thank them for playing. But I obviously let the younger and more interesting DJ booking executives and managers handle the artists. Yeah, at the start I was a lot more involved, but I would say for me. Yeah, just another little fact. I haven't really taken pictures with. I've worked with artists for 10 years, but it's kind of like I probably only have 5 pictures with like 5 artists. Yeah, I'm that shy. But essentially, I built some good friendships. Mainly Sven is somebody that I do really respect and treasure as a artist as well as a senior. I think looking at him and how he's progressed over the years with who he is and how respected he is in the industry, and I think that's someone that he's amazing. He's someone that actually texts now and then to check in on and stuff like that. In fact, during this COVID whole 19 thing, I think Sven was someone that we were kind of like having a few messages to check in on each other. Interestingly, I haven't spoken to him for a bit, but I and Seth Troxler actually kind of like, back then, a couple of years ago, he came to play with us for a few times, and he kind of extended his stay, so we went and watched movies and stuff, right? Seth is someone that I consider I am friends with, and of course, on the EDM side of things, I think Rehab is an artist, but Rehab's friendly to the whole Zouk family. He's amazing, right? Not just to me, but to the rest of the colleagues as well. He's a really all-round nice guy, right? And I mean Zed as well. I mean, whenever Zed comes, it's quite a comfortable moment, because I think Zed was an artist that spent some time in Singapore with us as well. So we went to Universal Studios, did roller coaster rides together. I mean, it's interesting how when some of these artists, I guess some of these artists that I'm closer to, I would say that they probably, I mean, there's kind of connection there. I think they're quite easygoing. I mean, one interesting story about Zed when I hung out with him, which makes me kind of like, go like, wow, this guy is cool. We were actually at Universal Studios Singapore, at Resorts World Singapore, and basically there were two cars that were prepared for the artists to go back to the hotel, right? And the first car was like a really shitty Toyota MPV, which is kind of like our old company car back then under Lincoln, right? Okay, it was not shitty, it was a Steamer. It's pretty nice, 7-seater. It's like a family, like soccer mom car. And the second car was this beautiful Alphard, just all spruced up, shiny. So the first Alphard came along, and Zed actually told his warm-up DJ to get on the car first. Because basically, the warm-up DJ was Haywire. I think he's quite a big star in that whole kind of like trap experimental scene, right? He told Haywire to get in the car first because obviously Haywire's set was first, and Haywire needed to go back, eat dinner, and prepare first. And Zed so nicely told Haywire, get in the car first, go first, no worries. I'll just get on the Toyota, And for me, having experienced like so many superstar DJs who are really particular about cars, I mean, respect to this guy, he doesn't give a shit. And he's a guy who's raking in millions, and yet he's so humble, right? So small things like that, create the stories of the personal relationships that I have with these artists,
So I want to ask you this one, because this is the question I get asked the most now, is about riders. And I was having a chat with Marcus Schultz recently, and we basically got everything on the rider, and he checked for this one confectionery, and he said, the fact that you've got it, it shows that you've read the rider. He said, from experience, I will add these things in because some people will just try and not necessarily give you exactly what you need. And if you can't get what I want, how do I know you've got what I need? And I've had some hilarious ones. A British DJ sent us, James Haskell sent us a rider that included a framed photo of the comedian Alan Partridge. So there are different people, and Headhunters wanted some CK briefs in his. What have you seen over the years that has made you stand back and go, wow?
In terms of strange riders, not really much, I guess. No Snoop Dogg kind of riders, like 3 monkeys that are backstage, that can say my name. But I think Steve Aoki shows are always interesting because of the cake requirements. Yeah, back then at Zouk, we are a small family-run business, right? Providing 6 cakes that are about huge, like almost 5 to 6 kg cakes, required like, the help of security, the bookings team to carry these cakes in or make sure they don't like get smashed up. Yeah, so I think these cake riders, Steve's, great for the show, but tough for the promoter, man.
So Wayne, I gotta ask you, what would be on your rider?
Wow, I mean, Joe, I think you will feel the same for me, right? I empathize with these promoters. I mean, it's not cheap to run a festival and the cost is so high. I don't think I'm going to kill them with it because so many riders, I mean, given that alcohol can be returned back to the store, but the rest of the stuff, even the chips, the nuts, the warm toasted bread, right? These things cost a little bit. And most of the time, right, the artists come, when they arrive late, they don't even look at all these stuff. They just come in and leave and play the set and go. And then all these bananas and stuff are left behind, right? Yeah, I think that's a waste of money. I mean, this food can be given out, but still, I would just ask for a very simple rider, just like a bottle of like alcohol that I want. Yeah, just, and maybe like, some chocolate bars and that's it, Yeah, keep it simple, right? Yeah, that's why I'm very happy whenever I get a rider and the DJ is like doesn't do alcohol, like rehab, woohoo, just like 6 cans of green tea or something, you know.
I'll tell you a true story, and I hope Ben watches this. So a bit like you, like the riders come in, the riders go, and Ben Nicky put 4 protein bars on his rider. And I'm a fitness fanatic, so I kind of thought to myself, if he leaves those behind, I'm having those. So he comes, he does the gig, amazing sellout, full house, comes in afterwards, sits down, has some water, says, can we get some breakfast? I said, no problem. And he's just about to walk out. And I think, I got 4 protein bars, phenomenal, and Genting, very hard to get hold of. And he turns, he goes, you got the protein bars? I said, yeah, it was on your rider. So he goes, brilliant, I'll take it, put it in his bag and left. And I've never forgiven him for that, man. He ruined the entire week.
Okay, one more last story on this rider thing, right? So, I'm not going to name the artist, but the artist rider basically had requested for 2 Dom Rosés. Quite a big artist, right? So we provided the 2 Dom Rosés, very nice looking rosés, luminous pink. And the artist obviously doesn't drink. He didn't touch that stuff, you know. Played a show, left, and to our horror, right, as they were leaving, when the transport came, we saw the tour manager just reach out to the fridge, open up the fridge, and take the 2 bottles of Dom Rosé and put it in his bag, and left. And we're like, wow, okay. And later we found out that this particular tour manager is the one putting all these Dom Perignon Rosés on the rider just to collect them globally. Yeah, just to take them for himself. And I was like, wow. I mean, it's an interesting world out there, man. But yeah, that really took the cake for me. Yeah.
It's people always say that you wonder how much of that stuff, but yeah, some great stories there. Thanks for sharing that. Now, something we did with Ron, something we did with Mark 6 Milan, and I'm gonna quick fire you some topics, and I just want you to give me knee-jerk reaction for the next minute.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, music you clean the house to.
Wow. Chill out, ambient.
House or techno?
Techno.
Can you dance?
No.
Cocktail you would have on the beach on holiday.
Wow. I would say a pina colada.
Last nightclub you paid to go into and who was spinning?
Last nightclub I paid to go into and who was spinning. Wow. Okay, Joe, this is a good one. It's a really long time since I paid. Not that I'm like boasting. Oh, to be honest, it's been a while. Okay, you know what? This is interesting, right? The last nightclub that I paid to go in, it goes all the way back to Fatboy Slim '98, the old Zouk.
Strong answer. How was the show?
It was amazing. I was in the army, 18-year-old army boy, shaved head, day off on the weekend. Yeah, I queued up for 45 minutes at the old Zouk at Zakim Street to catch Fatboy Slim. And first time I went in, like, wow, and people were like, body surfing, and I remember that track that really hit me hard, was Fatboy Slim is fucking heaven. Yeah, I remember that it was going in my mind, people body surfing. I was like, oh my god. And back then I didn't even drink alcohol, I was just drinking like a Coca-Cola and I was high, It's phenomenal.
Asian or Western food?
Asian.
Home cooked or takeaway?
Home cooked.
What are you reading?
Right now I'm reading basically this book called The Eyes of Darkness, Dean Koontz. Apparently it predicted the Wuhan virus. Just working on that now. And
favorite country in the world?
Favorite country in the world, besides Singapore, Japan, Tokyo, especially. Yeah.
And I'm going to throw a really controversial one at you. Normally I ask Singapore or Malaysia. I can't ask you that, so I'm going to say Singaporean food or Malaysian food.
Okay, I think I'm going to get a bit of hate on this, but I might have to go with Malaysian food for this one, because it is honestly more tasty because it's not as healthy. Yeah.
So I'm just pleased to say, Zouk Family, that's 100% record for Malaysia right now. So that's good. Everyone has put Malaysia so far. So Wayne, we really appreciate it. We love to chat to you more over the course of the year for sure, because as things change, as Zouk develops, as we reopen, we want to know what's happening in Singapore, and you're the best guy. What do you expect for the future, not just with Zouk, but inside the industry? And which names, if you don't mind saying, have you been talking to look at maybe for the end of the year, if you're allowed, or 2021?
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to share. These are shows that we were talking about before the whole COVID-19 situation kicked in. I think a Clean Bandit DJ set was Cash. Some of these names we were talking to. Year end, of course, ATB, which I'm of course sharing with Zouk and Yujo for that act. Off the top of my head, I think hopefully we're both looking at the Headhunters Return show. Of course, I think. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, still, I mean, a lot of movements around, so I can't really review more names. But yeah, these are some of the key names that we're looking at actually.
And you book Blink quite a lot from Zouk KL.
Yes, I do. Blink actually has a really strong following in Singapore actually. Yeah.
He's a good guy. Well, Wayne, thanks so much, man. You take care of yourself. Stay safe. We really appreciate your time, and we want to talk to you again soon. And thanks so much for educating us on what Zouk Singapore really means, and not just Zouk Singapore, but Zouk worldwide. As it expands into America, I'm sure a lot of people, especially friends of Ron, etc., will have a much better understanding. And the last point I've been dying to make is, you used to DJ at Zouk Singapore, correct? And when can we have you in Zouk Genting? Because I've been pestering you for some time.
Okay, here's it's the laziest response, but it's valid, right? I only do vinyl. Okay, it's really old school. Back then, I think when I DJed for Zouk, it was like, I'll say 2007 to 2009. Yeah, as you know, I used to play for one of the nights called Ready Set Glow. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I'm happy to, but you know, I might need to update my vinyl, you know, list and you know, stuff like that. But hey, you know what, Joe? I'll make it one day, I promise.
Okay, so Nigel Lane from the AVL team, go and get some Technic 1210s, and we can get Wayne on the first play. Anyway, Wayne, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Look after yourself.
Cool,
and see you soon.
All right, take care, buddy. Bye.